academic economics provides the intellectual foundation for economics, while policy making demonstrates how economics is applied in everyday life. So in other words, academic economics is the lab, or economics in the lab, while policy making is economics in real life.
Engineering is about solving problems. And so engineers are people who try to solve particular problems and do it as best as they can. Whereas science is about trying to understand the mechanisms that underlie things and so forth.
Economic theory can be seen as a cement for economic engineering, particularly for certain specific economic problems. Now, economic theory sometimes, yes, it's all known by economists and within the economic discipline, is it attempts in a way to simplify the reality as much as possible to be able to understand it. But then the problem of simplification is that you are completely anchored into that model and you are unable to see the reality. And then when you apply that model to the reality, unfortunately, it's not applicable.
You know, my own opinion is that economists in general, social scientists in particular, tend to have quite high opinions of themselves. And so there's a very strong tendency to want to change behaviors and to tinker. And I would say that in free societies, this is a very tricky prospect.
Can use the results of economic science, cannot be governed by them. They leave out much too much. And with appropriate humility, this could be understood. No physicist will tell you that you ought to build a bridge just by looking at the laws of motion. There's too much else involved.
There's sometimes overlap when we get things right between economic science and economic engineering, where the academics in their ivory towers are working on models and think things will happen a certain way and give policy prescriptions based on how things are supposed to happen. And then the policymakers go and actually implement that policy, and you get the results that you expect. That's the desired for outcome, but it only happens sometimes.
This is not black and white, you know, economists say A and policymakers do B. Reality is somewhere gray, different shades of gray, but I think it would do us a lot of good as economists if we understood and acknowledged better the world policymakers are living and operating in.
In fact, you have systems that simply can't be reduced to an analytical structure, what's called computational irreducibility. And that coupled with radical uncertainty really moves the real world, the engineering world, away from the essential structure of academic economics, where things are based on a known distribution. So you don't assume radical uncertainty.
A large part of economics doesn't have a direct policy impact, but some kinds of economics and some kinds of economists think of themselves as very, very policy relevant. And, you know, probably I think, you know, that development is a development of the last 100 years or so. And above all, it's associated with the Keynesian revolution. In that tradition, you're thinking of big aggregates.
La diferencia entre esta teoría económica, que durante muchos siglos padeció y se mantuvo casi rígida a ciertos conceptos y a ciertos valores de intercambio, de producción de la riqueza, que invisibilizó el valor de la división sexual del trabajo y de cuáles han sido las lógicas históricas de aporte, centralmente de los hogares, pero centralmente de las mujeres en ese aporte para la construcción económica, la importancia de los hacedores de política, aquellos policy making en los últimos años, ha sido precisamente poder acercar agendas de transformación.